For more on finance, we're joined in the studio by Rod North from Bourse Communications. And Rod, good morning.
Good morning.
Talk of the dollar has been dominating matters for the last couple of days because it's really slid.
It certainly has, and what we've seen effectively is the dollar's dropped 6% in 2 months, down to 87 cents. And I think most economists and I suppose people who were forecasting where the dollar would end by the end of the year were probably more likely to see it in the 90s. So we have seen it decline very rapidly in a very short space of time, which often happens, you know, historically. Obviously, the Reserve Bank and the Governor will be very pleased to see it because he's been trying to talk it down for some time. But this is against the US dollar that has actually been rising for 15 weeks and is at a 4-year high as well against all other currencies. So I suppose the sort of dichotomy is that the expectation when you look at it is, well, is the US going to raise rates anytime soon? Well, the Federal Reserve's been sort of oscillating, and we have sort of speculation endlessly happening, you know, each sort of couple of weeks about what's going to happen on that front. And I think that plays a very big part in whether it drives the dollar up or drives the dollar down. And I suppose it's more erring on the fact that the Federal Reserve in the US is not going to put rates up anytime soon. So therefore, that could, you know, cause our dollar to start and move back up at some point in the cycle. And we're, you know, very much looking at the US data, the key employment data that comes out at the end of the week, to see further confirmation of that recovery in the US. And there's a sort of high level of expectation that about 205,000 jobs will be added for September, which would be a good figure, and that would leave their employment rate at about 6.1%.
Now the dollar's down, so too is the Australian share market, Rod.
Yeah, the Australian share market is looking very, very flat at the moment, despite the fact that we've got the Dow, you know, moving up and down and looking as if it's going to stay above 17,000. But our market has pretty much wiped out all the gains for this year. You know, 1 minute we were sort of up around, the All Ords was up around 5,600. We're now, you know, drifting back towards, you know, potentially 5,200, you know, which really wipes out all the gains for this year. And I suppose there are a lot of companies that are still performing well, you know, that are producing solid earnings. So I think there's a bit of concern still, I suppose, internationally as to what's happening. This issue in Hong Kong is a bit destabilising because it's a major financial centre and no one really knows what's going to happen there. And we're looking at a whole new generation of people who are saying, well, you know, we want democracy, and, you know, it sends a bit of a chill up your spine, you know, watching some of that footage this morning, because it does sort of have that Tiananmen Square sort of look about it. And for all of us who've been to Hong Kong, I mean, it doesn't take much to get a couple 100,000 people, you know, in a crowd, and things could, you know, turn the wrong way, which wouldn't be good.
Quickly.
And just very quickly and finally, do you imagine this discussion about corporate tax minimisation is actually building to something?
Yes, I think it is, because there seems to be a fair bit of inequity, you know, in that tax system, you know, not only just with corporations but with individuals. And I think it's something that perhaps needs to be put on the table, because it seems that even the people that are on a 30% tax rate, you know, manage through their company structures to virtually pay, you know, very little or no tax. And I mean, you know, always remember Kerry Packer saying, you know, anyone pays any tax is an idiot. But it just seems to be a bit inequitable on the personal tax side. So I think it needs to be back on the agenda to be revisited, because it seems to be the people that can do and those that can't, you know, pay, you know, perhaps more than their due.
We need better legal advice.
I think you need to become a company, Virginia.
Okay.
Maybe that's it.
There you go. Just incorporate yourself.
Trioli
Inc. Yes.
Sounds
like
good.
it.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy shares in that.
Knock it off.
I can help float you.
Thank you. First time I've ever heard that. Rod, thanks so much.
Okay.
And on that note, let's go to sport. Here's PK.